Hello beautiful people, Anton here from Warhorse Training. I'm here today to talk about my first instalment in a line of episodes that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be called Train for TV. The reason why I came up with this concept is because I'm having a lot of my clients talking about how do I get this physique? How do I look like Chris Evans from Captain America or Tom Hardy from The Warrior and multiple others. And as you know, I'm an avid movie watcher and there's lots of TV stars that inspire me growing up and inspire me still to this day. As my old drawing would show you from when I was a kid, they're the people I used to look up to. And there's one person in particular that I used to look up to, and he inspired me to do martial arts and dig deep through a very difficult time in my life during my bullying. But the fact of the matter is, it made me who I am. I don't condone bullying in any way, shape or form, but like I said, it made me who I am. And this person is Bruce Lee. Now, Bruce Lee had loads of quotes. Quotes like, be like water, flow like water. But one quote in particular really reminisced with me, and that was, don't pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one. Now that really hits home with me and reminisced with what happened in my past. I've actually got that tattooed on my side, as you'll see in the next photo. Just above where my rib cage got caved in, unfortunately, and I've got a scar just above it where a scooter handlebar was dug into me. Now, martial arts really changed my life. The discipline and everything just become a big part of my life moving forward. I don't want to divulge too much into what happened in the past, but I was severely bullied. I was tied up with skipper rope, dragged around the playground, violin wrapped over my head, table charged into my knees, and things like that. But that will be discussed in a different video. I'll call that video something like Why I Started, and This Is Not a Sob Story. Two different avenues that can happen when you're bullied. You know, you can go inwards, you can be a bit of an introvert, anxiety, depression, be scared, you can't deal with things, or you could dig deep and keep moving forward. You could take on the world and keep moving forward. Now, I myself focused on keeping moving forward. You know, I was inspired by other people. My mum, my dad forced me into martial arts to get a certain discipline and look after myself. I did 7 years worth of karate in a dojo, started at the age of 7, and alongside that I did kickboxing. That then transformed into Shotokan, which I trained, which is a Japanese form of karate, and then American kickboxing, which is a slightly different spin-off. I then did a little bit of boxing, I did a couple of years of judo, and lately, my last year, I did Kung Fu and thoroughly enjoyed it. Throughout my life I've done competitions, I've won competitions, I've been very disciplined and things have changed so much. I've passed this on to my daughter, these life skills, and I gave her any option she wanted to do. She could be anything if she applied these right efforts. She chose to go into boxing for the time being, which is fine and I fully support her, and it did result in her winning her first trophy, and hopefully there's more to come. So proud of her. Okay guys, now enough about me. That's not why you tuned in. You tuned in for Bruce Lee's training program. Now you need to appreciate he is a martial artist and he trains in multiple different ways. But one thing that I found quite interesting is he doesn't just train in martial arts. He focuses on things like strength. He focuses things on hypertrophy training. He focuses on his elasticity, on his flexibility, on stretching. He does some unorthodox training methods, which we'll get onto. And then he does things like just lifting and strength and bro splits, believe it or not. One thing in particular here I've got is his bro split lifts of, it looks like a chest and arms day, chest, triceps and biceps day. And obviously some squats in there because why the hell not? Okay, so as you can see on his clocking in machine at the gymnasium, it's got his name at the top, which is fantastic. It's got the date. He seems to be doing like supersets. Down the left hand side, those numbers represent the supersets. He started off with squats, doing 3 sets of 10 at 95 pounds. It's important to note that 95 pounds obviously isn't very heavy, and you'd expect with the amount of power that this guy can exert, it would be a lot stronger, but he is more important on the flexibility and the depth and control of the contraction. In a lot of his workouts he talks about the time under tension, which is quite interesting because that transitions into modern day lifts. So looking into the second part of his lift, he does French press superset with incline curls and then back to French press again. So that's 4 times 6 at 64 pounds. followed by the incline curl of 4x6 at 35 pounds, and then back to the French press exactly the same. His next set seems to be con curls. I can only assume that means concentration curls, supersetted with push-ups, because why not? Then he goes to two-handed curls, supersetting with tricep stretch, which is the same as the tricep overhead, it's just a slightly different name for it. Dumbbell curls, supersetted with reverse curls, and then wrist curls and another variation of wrist curls. As you can see, there's a lot of forearm activity there, and bicep, grip strength, things like that. Obviously, he's ending the workout with sit-ups and calf raises just to give it an all-round work. But as he's been a martial artist and he has those concrete forearms, it just emphasises the fact that even though he's bro splitting things, he is working his forearms and his grip strength to the absolute max. Appreciate this is only one day, guys. You know, there is multiple other training episodes that he does do, and I'll move on to those in a moment. Alongside Bruce Lee's training bro splits, he does do some very unconventional lifts. Things like weight on a chain or weight on a rope on a stick. So you just turn it to get those forearm strength. I'll do a video on this because it's something that I used to do growing up, and I will continue. Different variations of grip strength lifts and bicep curls, again very forearm and bicep dominant, but he also did some conventional lifts, just things like military press, overhead press, followed by shadow sparring or shadow boxing, as obviously he has a martial art background and wants to keep fluent in all disciplines. As you know, guys, Bruce Lee has done multiple movies and is in great aesthetics in every single one of them. He warms up and stretches very peculiarly, and it's quite interesting how he can actually exert that amount of power. Now, speaking of exerting power, here's another one of his workouts. It seems to be more strength orientated, so he's got things like just 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps. And it's like clean and press, barbell curls, behind the neck press, upright row, barbell squats. So it seems to have an upper body, lower body style framework to it, which is not unfamiliar to some of the most current workouts that we're doing. It's just interesting to say that how all those years ago Bruce Lee used to train how we do in these certain conventional lifts. Now, Bruce Lee could exert a lot of power, like I said, but one other thing that we don't want to overlook is his passion for flexibility. Now, he used to do a lot of different stretches and flexibility movements, which are a little bit unconventional, a little bit odd, not unlike people like Conor McGregor, where he's throwing his arms around to get that elasticity in his punches. Now, Bruce Lee used to do something of a cat pose. It's displayed in one of his films where he would resume a position very much like a cat stretching, and he would force his scapula out as far as he possibly can, stretching and cracking all of his muscles up towards the top of his neck, and then he would bend down to touch his toes and stretch full length for his vertebrae to be able to move. It's just believed that all of this flexibility and stretching that he did allowed him to exert that amount of power, and because he focused on the elasticity of his ligaments, not just the muscle. So he had a whole round package. He was well known for, inch punches and to be able to kick someone and throw them the full length of a room with one single kick. Now, alongside this type of training, he also had some training apparatus at home or around the corner from where his house was at local gym. It looked very similar to our pulley machines that we have in our gym. And he would just superset push-pull exercises as opposed to upper body, lower body. So it's quite interesting that he would versatise himself to be able to do lower and upper body workouts as well as push-pull workouts, elasticity, work on his calisthenics and his martial arts. This type of full rounded package of him training didn't become apparent until his last couple of films, when he wanted to put on a little bit more size to look a little bit, quote, more Hollywood, as he said in his book. However, he has always been versatile with his training methods. He obviously practices his forms of martial arts and disciplines in the form of shadow boxing, Something else that's quite interesting that he does, he actually practices something called sticky hands, not just the forms. Now, sticky hands is where you pair up with a partner and you follow their flow. You know, if they move one way, you move the other. It's something I've recently learned in Kung Fu. I was fascinated by it when I found out Bruce Lee did it, and I was really excited that I learned it myself. Now, the good thing about sticky hands, it allows you to judge the distance of your opponent when you are close without looking. This allows you to react to how your opponent reacts, getting that blow in and hitting some serious power within a short distance. Here are some books that I found some information on alongside other YouTube videos and things like that. But in the books it mentioned that he was focusing on breathing and from his diaphragm. He also mentioned his conventional lifts that he used to do alongside his cardiovascular and his unorthodox training methods, like the weight on a stick. Now, what I find interesting is CrossFit. CrossFit has adapted multiple different types of training in one. Now, this is something that martial artists have done for years without naming it. So things like doing a bit of cardio machine, doing some jump ropes, skipping, then moving into like shadow boxing, pull-ups, push-ups, etc., etc. So it's just mixing multiple different workouts together to form a structure. He used to do a lot of calisthenics, if I've pronounced that right. So that's just self-preservation holds using your own body weight to be able to gain muscle and give you that core strength. You see it in a lot of movies, things like, you know, the Rocky movies where Sylvester Stallone did it. So shadow boxing, you might think, what is the point in shadow boxing? Well, I'll read a little bit that came out of that book. Shadow boxing is good agility exercise as well as methods for building up speed. Keep the mind on the job. It allows you to focus. Imagine that your worst enemy, if you happen to have one, is there in front of you, going all out. Give him what you've got. Use your imagination to the utmost. Try to anticipate the moves of your phantom rival. Will endeavour to put across and work yourself into a real fighting frame of mind. So it's a lot about getting your mind into the action, even though there's no physical person there. So you can imagine what's happening. Shadow sparring allows you to then react as if it's a real life situation. It transitions really well when you come into actual sparring. So what we used to do in all martial arts is we used to do almost role play type fighting where you're not hitting the person, you're going through, I'm going to do this, you're going to do this is how you're going to block and react to my reaction. And it does transition onto the movie sets, as Bruce Lee is clearly not going to be kicking people all over the face as he does do, and in these still frames you can see he doesn't quite make contact. So that shadow boxing works in Hollywood really well. Alongside Enter the Dragon, he did things like The Big Boss and other different Fists of Fury, you know, other different movies. He worked alongside loads of different actors, including Jackie Chan, Chuck Norris, Bolo Young, and so on. But one particular person, which is Chuck Norris, said in an interview that the few times that Bruce Lee made contact, it absolutely rocked his world. He didn't realise that such a small Asian guy could impact that much power within a short amount of distance. He says it was absolutely phenomenal. And it just goes to show that this all-round training method does work. And why stick to one particular thing? You know, be more versatile and you'll be able to exert more authority when it comes to fighting, let's call it. Like you said before, be like water, you know. Water is tranquil, water can move, you know, you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. He has some great philosophies, he's a great guy, it's a shame he's passed, but he was a massive inspiration for me. I can only imagine what impact he would make in modern day MMA. Stay tuned and listen to the next video, and I'll continue with these Train for TV workout videos. I'm Anton from Warhorse Training. Thanks for listening, guys.